Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyanema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. Beautiful people, you're welcome to the Snap Talk with your girl Teddy Tenjo every Saturday right from 6 to 7.
It is your responsibility omwana wo kubeera mu nyumba nga teyasuze bweru mbo bamubanja rent. Koyo kulaba abalenza abasajja abakunga butuufu tebabuulirirwa nga babulamu.
Towerabira nti tuli wano ku the Alternative Dig Talk. Mukwano gwange gwali topic ki wandiyagadde twogereko. Is it about family?
You can take your time, look for a job, stabilize, men will come, men will always be there, you will get the men. Bonna goyagala musajja yina goyagala ojja mufuna.
Embaga ketuuke. Bino bitu byasenga na ojja bafuna.
Naye ng'oli asitudde tuyakedde ku macabaga nti nsitudde tu. Naye nga mutuufu agambye nti gy'akyali muto.
Is it outside family? Is it society? Oh, could it be relationships? Just be commenting a topic yona gyandiyagadde twogereko tujjako tujogera kwano ku the Alternative Dig Talk ku share enganzi the Snap Talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good morning all, my name is Tumuhimbise. Allow me get off this mask for now so that we can communicate effectively. We are at Professor George Wilson Kanyeihambas home, former Attorney General, former Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, former Justice of Supreme Court. As a norm for now good months, every last Friday of the week, of a month, we host him and he makes an analysis or analyzes for us how the whole month has been. We're waiting for him briefly. I think next 3 or so minutes he'll be with us, and our topical discussion today is indeed, people asked why did he extend Museveni and NRA tenure for 10 years. And so many other concerns that we have and our viewers have. As I can hear him in his corridors coming, so we'll be discussing lots of things and lots of other sequence of events. Those of you in our next hour, you will ask you to call our studio line 0789 017 145, so that you can ask him any questions about governance, human rights, and so many others. He will be getting to you direct. You can follow us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Our YouTube channel is The Alternative Uganda. Our Facebook page is The Alternative Uganda also, and then Twitter it's Alternative Uga. We ask you to share everywhere we go live, and so many other shows that Alternative Dig Talk has. For instance, there is Snap Talk every Saturday, 5 to 6. There is Lisodio Mukulu on Sunday every 5 to 6 as well. There is Voltage Monday 7 to 9 and Friday 7 to 9. I beg your pardon. Snap Talk is 6 to 7 on every Saturday with Teddy Tenjo and others, and you know how they make their thing. Yes, as I speak, Justice Kanyeihamba is just with us. In a few seconds, he'll be with us on set. Let's just go for a break of just microseconds, and then he comes and says hello to our viewers. Norman Tumuhimbise, the Might Drive special to say, because now we're not driving, we are in Justice Kanyehamba's sitting room. Coming shortly. Don't go away.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digital, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digital, the way to go.
We can't thank you enough, our viewers, for following, liking, subscribing, and also watching and sharing our activities. But most importantly, all our shows, the Might Drive, the Snap Talk, the Voltage, Edisorio Mukulu, and so many other shows that that stream and broadcast on our social media page, The Alternative Uganda. Today, like I told you earlier, that every last Friday we have retired Justice, Professor Dr. George Wilson Kanyeihamba. I want to ask him to say hello to our viewers so that we all concur with us that we have him live in his home in Buziga. The public has missed you for some time. May you please say hello, sir, to our viewers.
Good morning, Norman. Nice to see you again after a bit of a spell because of the epidemic that we have. I am feeling much better. Yesterday I went to see my doctor and he was very, very pleased with my progress at this age. And he predicted that I'm going to live even much longer than many of my friends and especially my critics hope. Which is very good news for my friends and Alternative Digital and the listeners there, but perhaps not so pleasing to those who are opposed to me. Since we last met here, I have had a visit from good friends of mine, many of them of my generation, including Dr. William Nganwa. And I also have had telephone conversations with many of them. And I see that our generation and the generation before, their legacies are not very well articulated. Their legacies are disappearing slowly. And this is very, very, very unfortunate. I listen to news. I get a copy of the New Vision and of Monitor Daily, including Sunday. And I was struck by a story which told me that our government speaks with one tongue and does things with another. Why do I say that? It was reported in the two papers, one of them, that the properties which the government has been acquiring from the public ownership, such as land, or even at one time a school was acquired, if not two, they ended up in private hands, owned by friends of the government, particularly of the president, and the close associates. The destruction of Shimon Demonstration School near National Theatre is such an example. It was a very, very famous demonstration school of all races. Suddenly we heard that somebody had acquired it privately with the consent of the government, and that some very good project was going to be established there, presumably much better than the demonstration school. We awaited developments.
They put Kingdom Tower now.
Yes, later there was some controversy as to whether somebody who is close to the president had acquired it, owned it, and wanted to develop it into something. The story was killed because journalists, our journalists, they start a story, very, very exciting, and then it fizzles out. I don't know why. May you, as a journalist, you can explain one day. Then, recently, I heard that the site has been developed.
Yeah.
There is a very beautiful building there.
Kingdom Tower.
I was so attracted by that story. I went there, and sure enough, somebody has constructed a very beautiful building there. I don't know who is the owner. The newspapers have not said anything. Then, I'll be talking about him later, my relative, who is now the Minister of Internal Affairs, Kahindo Tafire. I will be talking about him in relation to the Kanyeihamba Foundation. They told me he was there, that when he was Minister of the East African Community in the last government, they had hired accommodation in that building. I think it's called Kingdom something.
Kingdom,
building. I was curious. I went to see him there. He was not there. But sure enough, his office was there. And his people there were not very helpful as to whether they had the list there or what we are doing there. Later on, we had elections in which he was elected a member of parliament. And he had been named, and he's now,
Minister.
Would you believe it, the Minister of Internal Affairs. And then he had left those premises, and another story appeared in the press that 137 new MPs were going to be found offices in that building.
Same building, yeah.
The government was going to hire those offices for MPs. Then you say, who is going to pay the rent and who is going to benefit from that money? Is it the government? Following the story of the Shimon Demonstration School? Or is that the private developer whom we don't know who is going to benefit? And what relationship does he or she have with the government? That is a question that remains unanswered. Now, just before the formation of the cabinet, President Museveni is on record as having said that the police are the most corrupt institution in the country. Previously, Justice was then, I think, IGG, Tumuhimbise, had said the judiciary was equally corrupt. It's in the record.
Is there any institution in this government that isn't corrupt in your view?
Not as far as I know. Having admitted that, then he said one of the present government's priority is to fight corruption. Corruption is a scourge that has troubled this country even longer before the movement came into power. And one of the main reasons why we fought the then government of Obote and Idi Amin was to banish corruption forever. It is in our manifesto, which we sold to the whole world. Little do we know that when our movement becomes the government of Uganda, it will fuel corruption. That corruption in Uganda now is at the worst record since history began to be written. But forget about that. What has the leadership of the NRM done? Very little, if anything at all. President Museveni does not walk his talk. He talks a lot.
That's less.
That's little. For bad or for worse, Jim Muhwezi is a good friend of mine.
I didn't want to take you there, Justice. I wanted to first clear some of the concerns
Yes,
from our viewers,
yes,
and then we shall go to Jim Muhwezi with his now.
Okay, let me leave him for the time being. But what I was going to say, he and Sam Kutesa, who I believe volunteered not to be part of this government now, is retired. But Muhwezi and Kutesa had been censured by the government, by the parliament, not the government, by the president. And Museveni, at that time, President Museveni, dropped Jim Muhwezi and then gave reasons. That Muhwezi was a good cadre. He had been a fighter. I think he's a major general or something like that. But according to the public record, he was no longer suitable to be cabinet minister because Parliament had censured him. And we accepted President Museveni's decision. Then Muhwezi, we used to play golf together, he's a good man. But he denied committing any offenses. Nevertheless, Parliament convicted him. So he is now the Minister of Security in the latest cabinet. But Museveni says he's fighting corruption.
By using the corrupt. No, by employing the corrupt.
By employing the corrupt. That brings me to the Kanyeihamba Foundation, which you partly propose to be made. There is, by the way, debate going on among my friends and relatives. Should it be the Kanyeihamba Foundation, because that's what we are registering, or should it be the Kanyeihamba Trust? We may have to decide that later and amend, but it depends on whether there is any difference. I don't see much difference.
Yeah. So,
having said that,
yes, I'll take you to
I want to bring this, and I want the support of the public. Nearly 10 years ago, the Uganda judiciary awarded me 157 million shillings plus costs, which brings it to about 250 million against Basajja Baraba. I want you to remember that. Against Basajja Baraba.
No,
Over these years, we have corresponded.
Won't we need the proof for that, for purposes of the public?
I will give you all
so
including the decree and including them that he never appealed.
What was the matter about?
And that he had demitted. You see, I was the chancellor of Kampala International University on the suggestion of President Museveni. Basajja Baraba is well known to President Museveni. And when they wanted the vice chancellor, I was a judge of the Supreme Court. President Museveni suggested that Basajja Baraba should appoint me vice chancellor of International University. I gracefully agreed, and I was the first vice chancellor of Kampala International University. I have a placard here from the management and board of Kampala International University thanking me for the work I did for the university. I have a placard here to be among the memos that we shall collect later, or you will collect in the memoriam of my work. Then, on one graduation day, Basajja Baraba, in my opinion, unwittingly and very, very wrongly, criticized the students who were challenging the failure of the university to provide them with facilities. I was presiding as chancellor on the graduation ceremony. Then I felt, as statutory head of the university, I had to respond publicly to what Basajja Baraba said. So I disagreed with him. I said that the university is like a parent to the students, and we should listen to the students' complaints instead of harassing it and abusing them. Parents were there, the guests of honor were there, and they clapped me for that. Basajja Baraba did not like it. The vice chairman of the university council was none other than Karoro Okrut. They demonstrably walked out of the ceremony when we were still proceeding, because the parents and the students had clapped me. And what did I say? I simply said, please, let us investigate their complaints and answer them properly instead of castigating them publicly. The following day, I got a letter dismissing me. Said, you have done a good job for us, but I now wanted to find a scientist, qualified chancellor to head the university. So he even promised to give me presents, which he has never given. I realized that he sacked me
because of your previous
because
statement.
of my previous statement at the graduation ceremony. So I sued him for defamation of character. Eventually, the case was heard in the High Court 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And the court very, very well considered the judgment, awarded me costs. I won the case, and I was awarded by the court itself 157 million shillings for all the wrongs that the university and the Basajja Baraba had done for me, against me, plus costs. And when the lawyers wrote to me, the total came to about 215 million shillings. They sent him the bill to pay. He didn't appeal. He gave the intention he wanted to appeal, he didn't. When the time came, my lawyers, then Katel and Kagumire, applied for execution of judgment. They got a decree saying they must pay me. Since then, I have been fighting with Basajja Baraba to pay my fees. I also paid your lawyers the fees, which are pending. Then recently he got a lawyer who claims to be a lawyer. Said he admits liability. I have the documents here. But Basajabalaba admits liability, but you must only accept a small amount. He will pay 40 million
out of the 200
of the decreed money. Then you set out of court. But if you don't accept, he will appeal. I am hoping that the Chief Justice, because I'm going there, is listening to me. Then I couldn't believe it. You accept the liability, but then you say, but you accept a small amount if you don't have appeal. So of course I refused. I didn't accept. I have all the copies of the documents here if you want to carry out investigation. Then I discovered that the lawyer he was using is not qualified. He was pretending to be a lawyer, which this movement, this party is using. They can even use unqualified people to cause havoc.
If you can have an IGG.
So I went to another lawyer. All this evidence is there in writing. And I am challenging Alternative Dignity to put a story up, show the document, including the copy of the decree. So, what does he do? He appeals.
After
a few months ago. And I said this appeal is out of date. And it is equivalent. He only wants to stay there. What am I making finally is the point I'm making.
Corruption and
I have made a decision that all the money from Basajabalaba should go, apart from costs for the lawyers, should go to the foundation.
Is there, do you
That's
have,
number one.
Do you have hope that that money will ever be recovered, Prof?
Pardon?
Do you have any hope, given the corruption and professionalism in the judiciary, in courts, that you have some hope that one day that money will come out?
The reason I have a hope is you. I am appealing to the public as through you. The public will put pressure on Basajabalaba to pay the money. That's the hope I have. And you are involved in it. It's high time journalists, you did something useful instead of just commenting on it. How can you ask me, do you have any hope?
Yeah, because why ask you?
We have courts in this country.
Yes, which hasn't.
A court gives you award.
Which hasn't.
The law says the court, you ask for a decree, which I have.
Yes.
Why do you say, do you have hope?
Yeah, because
is our system not working?
You'll be contradicting yourself, sir, because you have said already. In fact, you already have reports about the corruption in this government. Sorry, in this government, and definitely with the judiciary. You have had this decree for some time, and I am sure not only this, there are so many instances where you have said you have been disappointed by the judiciary.
I am even coming to
the land cases and so many. So what makes you believe that this time around, finally, they will have sympathy and behave professionally, and Basajabalaba will be brought to book, and any other people that you demand?
You see, where the law is working, and then you have public opinion, which I think I have. You don't say, wait, it works. You force people to do things. That's why I have become public. From now on, get digital. Because you are the secretary of the foundation when it comes. You are going to help me. We are going to publicize it in all the newspapers. But Basajabalaba must pay that 215 million to the foundation to build Uganda. I'm finding the foundation not for myself, not for my benefit, but for Ugandans who believe in justice, truth, transparency, and accountability. So that is why you are there here. That's why we have this program. If you don't believe in those, then you are right to say, do you have any hope? Because you see, it is one thing to believe, and it is one thing to also have something practically done. I was dwelling so much onto the sequence of events, but definitely with the facts when it comes to how
the judiciary which you served works. You know, previously we have been discussing about presidential petitions and lots of other concerns. And in your word, and with the proven record, you have come to show the public that the judiciary here isn't as effective, efficient as it ought to be. So that is the same angle in which, on behalf of your viewers, considered asking, is there hope that these people can be placed?
There is hope. We never knew apartheid was to die. Everybody says Europeans will govern South Africa forever. No hope. It went away. In Libya, they said Gaddafi will die in office. He left. That is the hope I have. All dictatorial regimes in the world have withered away, including the recent one in Tahiti. So that's the hope I have, is the force of public opinion and the courage of reporters like you.
Let me take you
I have shown you a picture that after the 2016 general election, all the international observers came here in this house, led by Obasanjo, His Excellency Obasanjo. Then you kept quiet. The press, the media,
at a time we hadn't
you are
started
party to blame for dictatorship that continue to flourish in Africa. Why do I say that? John Kakande, he's a very big person in New Vision. He's a good friend of mine. Every review of my book has been sent there. Has never been published. And he's my friend. He calls me, he said, they have refused this publication. Well, this man who was their general editor, Robert Kapshenga, when Makerere was celebrating its 20th anniversary, he hailed me as his relative and the guru in law. So I invited him on the launching of our book. I talked to him. He said, Professor, I can't come because I am now being nominated to be on 3 committees. I am challenging you as a reporter. Look for him. Look for Robert Kamshenga and ask him, you told Professor Kanyeihamba you couldn't come to the launch of his book because you had been nominated to 3 committees. Were they meeting simultaneously on that day when we launched his book? Go and ask him, and in the next round, let your listeners, because I don't want you to start on the fence again. If you believe in me, and you believe in the foundation of the Kanyeihamba Foundation, you must be committed to truth, transparency, and accountability.
Let me take you back.
Not just talk about them, but to be committed to it.
Let me take you back to your word, Justice Kanyeihamba, and all our viewers. We are on the Alternative Digital. The debate is becoming hot, and
yes.
I can
decided today to be hot.
I can confirm to our viewers that Justice Kanyeihamba will not threaten me not bring public opinion. Let me ask you, Justice Kanyeihamba. You talked of the public opinion. Public opinion has not helped us in these instances. Presidential petition. You saw how the public was on point and how it was disagreeing with your courts. The same public opinion the other way around, if for lack of another word, we remember there's corruption scandal that had Jim Mwezi, Mike Mukura and others. And we saw how the public in the courts pressurized the government, and eventually Mukura was gotten off the hook and others. We saw the same public opinion at the time storming General Museveni, asking him that he could not try their own son, Chiza Besigye, in the General Court Martial. So there are some instances where public opinion comes and favors the government, but when it comes to favoring some key concerns they are never had. And that is why I still ask about how much pressure that can make Basajja Baraba and some people and all your daters to pay you, even when the public might have that opinion that, Justice Kanyeihamba deserves justice.
But so you see, presumably we are talking at cross purposes. So far, public opinion has been a sleeping giant in Uganda. But I have told you that it worked. Public opinion, international opinion, it worked in our case, in the case of Idi Amin. Without international opinion,
public opinion, international opinion,
Amin would still be in power. I have told you about Gaddafi. I have told you about South Africa and how Mandela became the first African president there. So I am appealing today. I haven't said it before. That public opinion now should be the weapon we use to correct things which are wrong. Here I have a judgment against Basajja Baraba going for 11 years. Then you say, why hasn't the Monitor
published something,
said something about it? I have invited John, the boss, one of the bosses of New Vision. He has accepted it, but he fears to talk about Basajja Baraba. I have talked about the kingdom houses there. Why are you keeping it quiet? You. I come to you, not to me. The question is, why don't you comment on these wrongs? Because our main theme today is about Corona. And I hope we shall have time to discuss.
I have wonderful questions here for you from the previous discussion. People are bitter. In fact, let me just clear this.
But do you know my problem? When we are here, people call me. We discuss here. You tell previous people, why don't they come public and write in the newspapers?
But you see,
why don't you they? No.
You mean the people?
No, please, I am challenging you. Why don't you ask them
to do what?
Why don't you make that prominent and send it to New Vision? Why don't they do so?
But not everyone is able to write in
precisely.
No one.
Then public opinion doesn't work. You talk.
It takes us back to what I was telling you, that the public.
Now I am challenging you.
Justice Kanyeihamba,
I want you to give me those names.
I am moderating this show.
Listen, give me those names and I discuss with them.
Yes.
Every time you come here, you talk about our listeners. I say, give me their names and talk to them. You don't. Why? Are you afraid to give me their names?
I am moderating this show. Let us take it. Yeah, because people are watching you and they would want to answer.
Okay, you are talk.
Yes. One. Why did Justice Kanyeihamba? Why did you add NRA and NRM extra 10 years?
Why did I do what?
You and others extend the tenure of NRM.
Extend?
Yes.
Have you ever read the Attorney General's statement, which extended it?
Not me, Prof. It is the
But you need to do it before you ask a question
What's the answer? Yes, what's the answer from you?
Because that one is available as the NRM Secretariat. And when we came in, everything was chaotic. I was Minister of Commerce
at the time.
But most people called me the Minister of Barter Trade because I traveled all over the world looking for markets to exchange vehicles, equipment, coffee, tobacco, things like that. The NRM had naively said, we shall hand over power after is it 4 years?
Yeah, it was 4 years, 1986 to 1990.
But we had not even scratched the wrongs that were there. And so, like all the others, Musebi and others, we were convinced that we needed more time to put things right. And I am still correct in saying we were right to do so, to extend our
10 years.
Yes, for another 5 years. 5 years?
Actually, yeah, 5 years. From 19 to 96.
So I don't apologize for that. It was a necessary act of governance.
Our viewers were with Justice Kanyeihamba, and yeah, when it comes to how the country is being mismanaged.
But I never finished my point.
Yeah. You can.
So I said now, Kahin Tutafide, I was his lawyer for a long time. He was supposed to pay me regularly my retainer fee. I represented him on a number of very controversial projects. He's never paid me a penny. He admits that he owes me the equivalent of about 100 million shillings. Then when he was Minister of Constitutional Affairs, he helped. Government paid in check the equivalent of 10 million shillings to me, to take me for hospitalization. Yeah. People assumed I was going to die, and he was one of them. He took the money personally and used it. And he admits now, even if you call him from here, I want you to call him. So next round said, I called Kaindo Tafide, I called Basaji Baraba. That's what they said about your date. So I am donating that money also. 100 plus the 10 million the government gave me to the foundation. The foundation is for sustaining truth, transparency, and accountability.
Justice Kanyeihamba.
Is there any Ugandan, including M7, who doesn't believe in those three principles?
Justice Kanyeihamba, those are gadgets that help us broadcast this.
Yes.
Are you saying, if you could look straight into those cameras,
yes.
Are you saying General Watafire took 10 million off your would-be treatment money?
Yes, I am saying that. And ask Hakan Gunda, ask the permanent secretary to judiciary, ask a professor called Professor Basirake at Shambuku. They know all this.
That he took.
And they're the one who's trying to persuade him to pay me that money. Also, I owe it to various debtors. Yes, he did. And if when we are here, you have his number, I have his number. Let's call him, he'll admit that I took Kenya's money.
I mean, where is this country going? Like,
precisely. So I saw today, these matters must come out.
Yeah.
And they should appear in the press. NBS, they used to interview me. I am going from here to call Simon Kagwanjala about this story, because I have struggled for 10 years to get this money, but I respect these people. Then I say it is high time the public help me to get this money, not for me to benefit, but for this foundation to build trust in truth, in justice, transparency. And I don't apologize for it. I will never apologize that I have made it public, because even yesterday, I talked to one of those very important people, and he said the man acknowledges the debt. This is Katahindo Zafide, but he says he doesn't have the money now. Now, if he doesn't pay this money within a short time, really, I think many people will review what also they know about him.
Okay, our viewers, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba. Today is furious, and we shall not do what.
But I hope you can send a transcript of this interview to him.
Oh yeah, we shall. We shall do our best.
And
now some concerns. Let's come back to the normal sequence of events.
I am sorry.
You watched.
I diverted.
And not really. We have some time. You watched. I am sure you watched Honorable Nabanja in Kasese giving out relief.
Yes.
With those blankets, which, in my view, and so many people's opinion, they were more or less handkerchiefs as light as you can imagine. And she said Kasese can't be a dumping place. Days later, she says she's under threat. Do you think this country has another deep state within a state?
There's what?
Is there? Do you think there is a state within a state?
Yes.
Like when it comes to, especially when it comes to such tenders, big tenders, because she asked who was in charge, and later on we see headlines saying she's being threatened. Do you think she will manage? Do you think she can stand onto her feet and that resilient? Especially
there are 3 people I recognize in this cabinet as very competent, but they are handicapped by the methods of work
you mind
they
mentioning?
found there. And those are the Vice President, I know her, Alupo. Then the Prime Minister,
Nabanja.
she did excellently when she was in education, practitioner. And then Bahati, now the Minister of Commerce.
What about your friend, the Minister of Finance?
Minister who?
Kasaija, your friend. So
And Kasaija, yes. Kasaija has been quiet now. But if you see what he has been saying, even when he was retained as minister, he is very encouraging. He's not very happy with how the money is handled in this country. He's the Minister of Finance.
So
but
in your
even
view,
the budget, I'm told, was read by someone else.
in your view, out of 80 ministers, you simply see
I have
4
talked
of them.
about all the friends I know. But there are others who are
Who could
coming
be,
up.
okay.
Others which are not. Let me tell you one who was on television. The new minister of Karamoja.
Nandutu Agnes.
She interviewed me here. She was a very excellent journalist. And we had exchanges like I have had with you. Then I was very delighted when I heard that she had won her constituency. But later on, even more surprised and pleased that she was the Minister of Karamoja, although I have a different view about having a ministry of Karamoja. Having said that, she was recent on TV. And what she revealed, I don't know whether President Museveni ever watches this. She said, I am not committed to a fanatical NRM man, but I had to be NRM candidate in order to win my constituency. What does that tell you? And therefore, she's minister. But she said that. She said, I am not a fanatical supporter. But in order to be where I am,
I had to
hide
in the skin of
to
NRM.
hide that I am a pseudo NRM.
She even lost as a former candidate for NRM, came as an
And
independent.
came on her own right,
and again beat
in
her,
her own
beat the
colors and
opponent.
won. That shows you the public opinion.
Yeah.
Because today, if I was a advisor to the President Museveni, I once was, I would tell him, Mr. President, you either need to change your program or you have had enough, retire, which I am doing now. Do you know something? My little booklet, challenging presidential elections, has been obtained by so many people, including the leader of the major main opposition party, NUP, who bought 100 copies to distribute to his members in the parliament. But not a single one
Has talked about it.
has talked about it.
Let's come back from
What? No. What does that tell you? That there is an illegal law. Paragraph D, I think, of subsection 6 of section 59 of the Presidential Election Act. It is unconstitutional and is illegal. How can you be a member of parliament,
And
whether you are NRM or otherwise? Kanyeihamba points out that this is an illegal provision, and you keep silent, so that after the next general election, it will be used to justify the win of whoever candidates win. This is criminal. And I'm challenging the 11th parliament. It must be discussed there, where I'm still alive with God has kept me going. Because I'm going to talk about the work of the God which we don't understand. But I believe in him. There are 3 octogenarians who have contributed tremendous work to Uganda. Bidandi Sadi, Masuru Chikeire, and Dr. Martin Alike. They are still alive. 2 of them are much older than me. But they have contributed so much to this country.
Okay.
Recently, the Monitor reviewed Masuru Chikeire's book. He's written a book. All of us have written. There is a force I have forgotten about. He's now in his 90s. The former Chief Justice, Justice Samuel Wambuzi, still alive, still writing. We are soon to launch his latest book. These people should be on the lips of every Ugandan as people who have distinguished themselves serving this country. But we often hear nothing about them.
Okay.
This is a very sad commentary on the way we recognize our leadership.
Okay.
I am very happy that my good friend, the former Prime Minister, Ndugu Rugunda, has somehow been maintained. But it also tells you how this government works. Just before then, every reporter predicted that Amama Mbabazi, the former Prime Minister, would come back, would bounce back either as Vice President or back in his old job as Prime Minister, or certainly as nothing but Cabinet Minister. He has not surfaced at all. He himself had admitted that he's now back in the fold working with President Museveni. But what he tells you, once you have honored President Museveni, whatever he may say, whatever he may promise, he will never forgive you.
Okay, comrades, ladies and gentlemen, with Justice Kanyeihamba, we are coming in just a minute because he has a lot to answer here. I am getting comments and feedbacks here. Let's come back in a minute, if not 40 seconds. We are Alternative Digitalk, streaming live on the Alternative Uganda.
So my final point on that one,
so
I am appealing to the public, to the press, to publicize the facts and help me that all the money Basaja owes me, the money Kahindo Tafire owes me, must be paid in the Kanyeihamba Foundation. I'm not going to use it personally. It will assist
the foundation work,
perpetuate truth, justice, accountability, and transparency.
We are coming back in a second.
Thank you.
Go away.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digitalk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views, and ask questions on alternative Digitalk. Digitalk, the way to go.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, especially young people who sacrifice their hard earned MOBs to watch, follow, debate, and share our shows. My name is Tumuhimbise. I'm with Professor Retired Justice Kanyeihamba, and we are going through lots of concerns and topical discussion of so many events that have taken place in this country. Before we went into a very healthy break, he was appealing to the public and those that have the powers to look into how he's facing an injustice. For example, he has a case that has been on for the last 10 years or thereabout against his former boss, Hassan Basaja Badaba.
He never was my boss. The only person who has ever been my boss is M7's, and the former chief justice, Wambuzi, and Ben Oduchi. Nobody else in my life I've ever called my boss.
Okay, the founder of KIU, which KIU had employed Justice Kanyeihamba as the chancellor, and upon having the judgment, he hasn't been paid, and so is with the minister now for internal affairs, General Otafide. That aside, there is this question. I am sure you have been watching TV. So many people run to Salim Saleh for rescue. How powerful is Salim Saleh in this government, and why?
Salim Saleh is a man I respect for his forthright approach to life. I must confess a personal liking for him because of the private contacts we have had, and I have cited him once saying that he felt that Muhoozi, now the general in charge of land forces in Uganda, would be better off learning business achievement from him than staying in the military. I admired him for that forthright statement. But I have heard these rumors saying that, in fact, he makes a lot of decisions which affect Ugandans privately by advising the president. I don't know personally, but knowing how our system works, President Museveni is maintained by the wisdom of others, not his own. As I will comment on the epidemic.
How it's being managed.
One time he worked alone before he had a cabinet, and he made a number of errors which we must comment on. Not that he intended to do them, but the Bachiga have a saying that he who brews alone brews bad beer. And many of the mistakes we made on this epidemic is because the president didn't have a cabinet and he tried to do things by himself. Having said that, I must haste to congratulate the medical field of Uganda, particularly doctors.
You haven't exhausted.
Who have done the best to maintain health in this country and to save life, including mine.
You haven't exhausted Salim Saleh's influence, sir.
So, I have heard the rumor. And in one or two areas, it seems that the rumor is justified. Because knowing the history of the NRM especially the military part of it, Museveni depends almost entirely for support on the army. And the Salem Saleh is a darling of the army, and he tends to speak very loudly with the voice of the army. And so anything involving the army, involving the protection by the army, Salem Saleh is an expert, just as Kanyeihamba is an expert on law. And so I believe that President Museveni trusts Salem Saleh, and when Salem Saleh says, Mr. President, I think you are going too far, or don't do this, Museveni will listen. My regret is that the army has become more and more of a cadre system.
Everything is militarized.
Yes, it's a yes. Well, I am not depending on Salem Saleh. I have many close friends in the army. I can mention some of them. Rather, General, who recently retired as Minister of Security, Eli Tumuhimbise, Koleta, Ivan, Okesho Fred. These are friends of mine, socially, and they talk to them regularly. Some of them are not happy. But what amazed me recently is the silence against oppression and torture by some elements in the NRM. The silence of people like those generals I mentioned. The silence of Sefusa, whom I saved to stay in the army even against his own wishes. Remember, I gave the lead judgment in the Tinyefuza versus Attorney General, and they said he should just stay in the army according to the commission, because otherwise, to allow him to leave whenever he wants, would leave the country and protect him. Some people have misunderstood my view there, but it is the correct one. Having said that, to come back to your question, yes, I think that people like Honorable Janet Museveni, Honorable Salem Saleh, have considerable influence on how we are governed. I am not so sure that the president's son holds cards, but Museveni would like to give him more power. This is how I understand it in the ruling of this country, which also is unfortunate. So that my answer to that would be, on my own understanding and based on the views I have with other generals, yes.
Now, this leads us into another question, Justice. Does this mean there are some people who do not necessarily have any specific office but are more powerful than some that might have even cabinet ministries?
Oh yes, it is absolutely true.
Are those two governments in one?
When I was Minister of Justice and Attorney General, I knew that the President listened to some people who were not cabinet ministers. He listened to them more
than the people, the ministers.
Even I, who was Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Let me give you a very good example. When I was Minister of Justice and Attorney General, There was an understanding between me and the president that no person of permanent secretary level or minister, cabinet minister or assistant minister would be arrested and jailed without the Attorney General or his chambers looking at the evidence and advising government or the president on the matter. So one time I went abroad on government business. On that understanding, when I was away, I heard that Moses Ali, Omar Atubo, and some other people had been arrested and jailed, suspected of treason against Uganda. I was very, very annoyed because the president had not consulted my chambers. So when I came back, I offered to resign. I said, Mr. President, you can't have an Attorney General, Minister of Justice, whom you don't trust. On these issues, I should have been consulted. And his answer was honest. He said, my intelligence in the military have convinced me that these people are very dangerous and they should be arrested. I said, I am sure the evidence they have may be credible. But
they should have brought it to you.
The point I'm making is that you should have consulted me about it.
To go through the same evidence.
But eventually, as on another occasion where I offered to resign, he persuaded me on stronger arguments that I should stay in the government. I think the other one you remember when I was Minister of Commerce and I was blamed for the chaos of imported goods but are not local produce. Again, I was blamed for that wrongly, but that's when he offered me as a finger. He talked about the Banyankole, saying if you are being attacked by a lion, you offer it a finger, and while it is chewing your finger, you escape with your life. So I was offered as a finger,
a political finger,
in order for the NRM government to survive public criticism. So what am I saying then? That is one example that on
there are some occasions where
on Moses Ali, Amar Atubu,
advice was gotten from another person.
My advice was not preferred. Private advice from the army intelligence was preferred to that of the man who was in charge of the law. It is very, very important to remember that. Secondly, the military advised that they should storm old Kampala, where the Tabliks had taken over the premises and they killed some poor
dogs and police officers.
But there, I am told that some generals has advised him to storm the area, but my opinion became superior. I said, let me go and negotiate with them first. And everybody was against it. They thought I would be killed there. But I went there unarmed and managed to get truce between the Tabliks and the government. And if you remember, that was one of the reasons he convinced the president to appoint me chairman of the Reconciliation International Committee that came up with the proclamation of Mbalala as about peace in the Muslim community even today.
So it is factual that within a government there is another government.
Absolutely.
Okay, our viewers, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba and going live on our social media page, The Alternative Uganda, and also on our YouTube channel, The Alternative Uganda, then on Twitter, Alternative Yuga. Our studio line is 0789017145. Our studio line is 0789017145. Let's come back, Justice Kanyeihamba. You have watched also the sequence of events where your friend Jim Muhwezi, of course, being the Minister for Internal Affairs, now they have, after the camera installations, they have come to suggest that every Ugandan vehicle should have a tracking device. And he indeed very hurriedly signed the contract. Hours later, it was discovered that the company which had been given the contract was declared bankrupt. Now, where are we heading?
We are heading in a very, very bad way. You see, my good friend,
Jim,
late Elia Kutegaya, we were very close. We almost met every day. Even when he was first deputy prime minister, he would always consult me. And we decided to appoint, to tell government that we should have a very powerful committee negotiating these international contracts. It's a story that I tell in the blessing and the joy of who you are, how I saved this country from disastrous contracts like that one you have mentioned about Jim Muhwezi. I am surprised about Jim Muhwezi because I thought he was aware that you may be a good minister of security.
But you can't be good at everything.
But you are not very good at negotiating contracts involving security. I used to be the attorney general of this country. But when it came to agreeing to a contract involving machinery, I am very good at, but I'm very bad at computer system. I'm illiterate as far as computer is concerned. I would ask experts to advise me and to be the one to negotiate everything. I would approve and sign after my people have convinced me this is good for the country. Now, Kategaya and I agreed that from now on, no contract can be unless there is a national committee consisting of experts, obviously with the chairman of the line ministry, to negotiate that contract. So that there will always be a member from the Bank of Uganda, a member from the Attorney General's chambers, a member from the line ministry, and maybe matters involving something like that from security. Kategaya's recommendation, based on those proposals, was not adopted. Every minister, including those who are not qualified at all, become the big people. I asked you last time, the former chairman of the Uganda Airlines, Ahabwe, he's a nice man. He's a historian. I am still finding out. Even Rakan Uganda didn't have time. Who recommended him to be the chairman of the Uganda Airlines board? Because I don't want to go to our history. But even President M7's himself, we corresponded on him. So when I heard he had been made chairman of the airline, I was shocked. On him being appointed, but you know that was the result.
Yeah.
Of using unqualified, inexperienced, but very pompous people in the big offices. It's become an embarrassment. So I'm very surprised what you are talking about. This certain gentleman, rightly or wrongly, was a party to the scandal that went on in the Ministry
Health.
of Health, wasn't it?
Yeah. About the Gavi funds.
The money went. This went. How does the president
entrust him again with another minister?
The Minister of Security, secondly, to negotiate
contract
without any input from experts? So I'm not surprised that what you are saying is correct. Secondly, there is no Ugandan contract today, presumably apart from those approved by the President himself, which is approved without some payment being made privately to somebody. Could be the minister.
Kickbacks, like they call it.
There. When I was Minister of Commerce, I was threatened with death, and the President himself knows about it. Because people would say, this Kanyeihamba, who is a master of barter trade, he said he has spoiled our life. How would you ask a foreign trader to give you 10% when the only thing you are receiving are fridges or radios? Can you put it in your pocket, a radio? I get as 10%. So I was threatened with the death. Me and my deputy minister was called Israel Kayondo. We were threatened many times, but we held our ground. And let me tell you, President Museveni, I hope we listen to this program. It is the only occasion when he transferred me that President Museveni thanked me for having done a good job as Minister of Commerce, although I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
He said you put discipline and dismissed those thieves in that ministry.
Our viewers, we are still on the Alternative Dig Talk, the Mighty Drive, and we are at Alternative Uganda social media page. That's Facebook, YouTube, Alternative Uganda, and Twitter, it's Alternative Yuga. Again, let me take you back to the sequence of events.
To the what?
To the sequence of events.
Yes.
You saw a very young, for lack of another word, courageous boy that was deported from Japan to here. And by the way, up now is still held until yesterday when the lawyers petitioned the court that this boy, of course, the government cannot fully explain why, because when he reached Japan, going with people who had gone to participate in Commonwealth Games, he disappeared. And it became a very big story here. Even how he was picked from the airport, you would assume that he robbed this nation. I want to take you back to Honorable Zoe Bakoko Bakoru, who is in hiding or in an asylum. I'm sure you could have worked with her for, when you were still active in the government. Zoe Bakoko Bakoru left the country. And when some of the videos that she sent was that she had been used to swindle money from NSSF. The government, which you served, never put pressure on America to deport that lady. Why? This time around, this little boy that didn't even go with an egg, that would pay all this attention onto such a boy, and to an extent of jailing him, because up to now, as far as I know, he's still in Chibuli under detention, Ginger Road, for that case.
It is most unfortunate, because I read in another story in the media that he was persuaded by some other forces to make it rather to commit a trick on the Olympic Committee. This is a matter between the Olympics Committee and a small individual there. He should never have been given that publicity. They should not have taken such serious matters as if he was Shagulanye running to Japan and spoil the
name of the Uganda. In any case, Justice, our name has been spoiled enough. By so many big wigs than simply this boy. So how?
It was really, it was a storm in a teacup. It never should have happened. It is very embarrassing to Uganda, to the government of Uganda, that they should have publicized a young, misguided youth who presumably was looking for green pastures. That story is insignificant compared to the one that our Olympics Committee, the officials who accompanied our few athletes were more than the assist themselves. In other words, we sent there a bigger team of officials than sportsmen and women. This is ridiculous. That is more dramatic, more damaging, and ridiculous than a young man of 20 looking for green pastures, misguided by other people we don't know, and you make it headline. It's ridiculous.
You have tempted me to ask about when you were still serving this government. How limited were your travels abroad? Did you ever decline any of the travels and say, no, I think this one is irrelevant? Because we have seen Mr. Museveni or any other people, ministers, every now and again, I mean, as if they have ministries abroad.
No, I was never stopped going to visit wherever I wanted. But the most importantly, President Museveni sent me everywhere in the world. I tell everybody that by the time I left as Attorney General, but particularly when I was Minister of Commerce, don't ask me how many countries I didn't visit, because those are fewer
compared
than
to the ones you
countries
want
I
to.
visited. I went everywhere looking for markets for Uganda. I used to be called in cabinet Minister Sugar. See, President Museveni has got one weakness. With a few exceptions, he does not want to acknowledge that other people served this country. Without Kaira, Andrew Kaira, and myself, Moshi would never have taken place. Because the Tanzanian government, through their embassies in New York and London, had identified two individuals who had a great influence on the refugee communities of Uganda, including even people who were in exile like Rule and so forth. So we are the ones with the Tanzanian embassy who organized Moshi. Moshi was opposed by the UPC group, by the other political parties, and especially by Museveni, who was fighting. Because they are the ones who wanted to be in the power immediately. And they saw this was a national organized meeting like Moshi, as it was, they would be denied the right to take possession. I remember UPCB represented by the late Langalanga at the meeting we had in Nairobi with those forces, and he opposed it. Nyerere forced Moshi on Ugandan through Kaira and Kanyeihamba. Later by Tandon, Professor Tandon, and Monyo Jok, the late, who supported us there. But when you read the minutes of Moshi, which were doctored, and the President Museveni's commentaries on those items, you don't believe that Kaira ever participated there, let alone Kanyeihamba was there. It will not tell you, Museveni is the master of the seed, will not tell you Kanyeihamba was always used to write all the constitutions of our political organization, including the first ever, where Kategaya, then Martin Adike, we met with the late Verondwa and Prince Raliji of Ankole, and formed the first National Liberation Front, which I wrote the constitution of. And eventually it failed because of leadership.
Okay.
So what am I saying? Museveni has to be criticized right today, that he minimizes the contribution of others
And takes the credit.
and exaggerates
His contribution, yeah.
If you read Dr. Miriam Matembe's book and John Kazola's book,
Yeah.
and you read Massimo Luchikere's book, These were very close confidants of President Museveni. And some of them still remember what happened. You can see how he uses them, how he utilizes them, but today he doesn't want them to, anybody to know they played a role or effective role in the organizations. I have asked you, as I listen, that one day we should have a session where you see what makes Kanyeihamba tick. Why is he still there? Next birthday, which is August, I'll be 82. Why has God kept me going? Many of my contemporaries have gone. There is a reason. And the God one day will reveal it. I have written these books. I saw to the last one, which was the 31st, which he launched was the last one. But I am almost finished another one. Since then, about Kanyeihamba remembers.
Okay.
And that will
Feature.
be a classic.
Okay.
When we remember these things.
Okay, our viewers, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba, and I have very wonderful questions for him here. One, you drafted so many laws, that is factual, and you're one of the best draftsmen that this country and the whole of Africa and the world at large has ever had. What went wrong with the land laws in line with what is trending now? Because your former boss thinks that the Milo land has issues. What went wrong with that law, with the land law, in your view?
You know, we have all failed as politicians. Our advice to President Museveni to retire, the constitutional provision that he should have only 2 terms, have all failed. But do you know what is going to fail Museveni? And what will remove him is Milo land. He has not understood the concept and the principles of land law, and in particular Milo land in Uganda. And then he continues challenging the concept and the principles of land law in Uganda. And he wants to establish a regime where government controls everything, where government controls land for nothing. That, President Museveni, I'm telling you, unless you drop your opposition and the hatred of the Milo land, which is the hallmark of the whole legal regime of land in Uganda, your days, even if you don't agree with the Kanyeihamba, to retire in this term are numbered. I am seeing that on authority of intellectual analysis.
Justice Kanyeihamba,
Why? Yes.
are there specific governments and examples you might want to share with the world that where land has collapsed, or the government?
Pardon?
Are there specific governments in the world where the land question has taken away the president, that you could share with the public?
South Africa is not resolved. The land issue in Kenya is one of the major problems since independence, because the advantaged people got a lion's share of the land. In America, even today, land and the property governs the position. The blacks are still denied their rights because much of the land is based on the wealthy. I could give you many examples. I wrote the Constitution of Panautu, a country many Ugandans don't know. I was asked by the British government to write their constitution. And the major problem we found there was land. Why do I say that Milo land
We take
caused a problem to Museveni? the culture of Uganda, the whole philosophy of Uganda, and their own understanding of the structure is a part and parcel of governance in Uganda. For most of Uganda, the only regime they respect and love is the Kabakaship. The Kabakaship of Uganda is based on the rules and the rulers respecting each other, one another. Many Buganda traditionalists who comment on Buganda system, many people like me who have adopted the Buganda as their home and who have permanent residence here, like I have inherited the culture of the Buganda. And it is not just us of modern generation. Daudo Cheng, the late brother of Dr. Martin Alike, another participant in the current government, not only was he a landowner, but he admired the Baganda culture to the extent that the Baganda entrusted him and elected him a member of parliament to represent Uganda. The whole question of clan leadership, kabakaship, obwami bwa Buganda, abaisaza, abamagombolola, terms used in Uganda are based on this interrelationship between landowners, land users, and Busuru and the Vuchuro. Destroy that,
you're gone.
and you destroy Uganda.
What?
Yes. The Kabaka would not be there anyway. If you took away this kind of hierarchical system of ownership and relationship, then Kabaka is left hanging. People like the Ruchiko, the Katichi of Uganda, writers like Peter Mulira would be no more.
If I may ask, Justice.
So, my friend, to attack landownerism and the Mayo structure in Uganda is to attack the very fabric of structure of the Uganda government.
What do you think could be Mr. Museveni's agenda when it comes to the land question and the reforms that he thinks ought to be put in place?
I think that one is implicit in what I said at the beginning, that the government and Museveni's intention is to be the ruler and the governor of everything that is in Uganda, including land. That whenever he wants to give land to his friends, whether they are foreign or national, there should be no impediment. But the provision we put in the Constitution that to take away in the public interest anybody's land property right, you must first do it legally, and you must compensate the owner. Let me tell you, when we came here, we found that many Ugandans had been given ranches in Ankole, in Bunyoro, whether in Mugende and elsewhere. Massive areas 5, 1 acre, rather 1
Square
mile,
mile, yeah.
square miles. Some of them had developed those ranches, others hadn't. So Museveni decided with his fanatical supporters that we should take over compulsorily all private ranches in Uganda. And as he argued, they had paid nothing, and this was public land. And many of us agreed with him. At that time, Professor Mondo Kagonyera was Minister of Animals and Husbandry, Fisheries, and I was the Attorney General. And both of us, Kagonyera, and he is still alive, you can ask him, we said, whereas the dominant domain means that government has the right to take over the land, but we must take it over in accordance with the constitution and the law, and subject to compensation, adequate compensation of those you have taken land from. Kagonyera and I were of the same view. We were senior cabinet ministers, and that is the advice we gave. In the next reshuffle, Museveni dropped me and Kagonyera. And the then Attorney General who replaced me was the late Abu Mayanja. Advised him that it was okay to take these
without compensation.
There are many people who were owners of the ranches. They are they are unhappy and they're bitter.
I think even
eventually Kagonyera was rehabilitated, but I have never been because I have maintained the same.
You stand.
So they made many mistakes, and as I have said, Museveni occasionally acts against professional advice. For example, as Attorney General, the late Mwine, Dr. Mwine, Frank Mwine, who was the managing director of Commercial Bank, was given a contract, negotiated freely between him and the then Minister of Finance, Chiyonga, Christopher Chiyonga. Then when Museveni wanted to reorganize government, he sacked Mwine. I was Attorney General. Then I looked at the contract and I said, you have the right to sack him, but he must be compensated for the losses of his benefits illegally. Then Museveni, when he doesn't like your advice, he goes to another lawyer who is sympathetic to him.
Or who fears him.
Yes. So he went to Abu Mayanja. That's why he replaced him with Abu Mayanja. But he said, no, sir.
It's okay.
You don't have to compensate him. This Mwine, he deceived Chiyonga. Chiyonga, a doctor of medicine, very brilliant man, is one of the great thinkers we have. And he gave him an expatriate contract. As a Ugandan is not supposed to have that. So Mayanja, having advised the president he was right, first of all to get the ranches free, you don't have to compensate. And then sacking doesn't have to be compensated. He replaced Kanyeihamba as Minister of Justice, Attorney General, and the third Prime Minister. Very big. Now, do you know what happened? The ranchers who were affected, some were compensated. Even I think others have never been satisfied. They are still grumbling. 2, Mwine was compensated eventually because the president found that I was right, that you can't take away somebody's property without compensation. So that is part of the weaknesses of President Museveni. When you challenge him, even privately, on an issue, that Mr. President, you are not right on this one, he makes it personal. So he calls you a critic and he says you are wrong. And most likely he will look for somebody
Who
equally
fears him.
qualified who will agree with him. And Mr. President, you are
You're
right.
very right.
So where you have a president who only acts because people agree with him is a very dangerous proposal.
Okay, we are on the Alternative Uganda Facebook page. On YouTube, we are on the Alternative Uganda also, and Twitter it's Alternative Yuga. We have 5 minutes. We have between 5 and 7 minutes. I want to ask you this, Justice Kanyeihamba. Are these land reforms targeting Uganda in particular, or they are for the whole country, in your view?
President Museveni's philosophy, which is derived in his belief in communism. You remember when we first came in, our great friends were North Korea, Cuba, Libya, authoritarian regimes, is that land, water, minerals, and anything forestry belong to the government who controls them and utilizes them on behalf of the general public. And therefore there should be no restrictions. Government acquiring land, acquiring water, those minerals, the forest, in the interest of the people. It sounds a very, very, very good principle until that government is controlled by corrupt people. Then it becomes like in Uganda. That land, which you want to acquire freely, the forest, public parcels of land like Shimon School. In a corrupt system like Uganda, you use it to reward your supporters illegally. So Shimon School is destroyed in order for some rich person to own that piece of land. And he will pay royalty to Museveni and not to NRM or to the government of Uganda. The forest will be acquired to reward individual supporters of the regime. You remember we lost somebody when President Museveni had promised to give away part of Marilla Forest to a developer of sugar.
Okay.
You remember?
Yes.
That is a philosophy of communism. In a country where communism is accepted, there are no individual titles. But conversely, the rulers do have property of their own.
Yeah, by now.
When President Museveni castigated me and Professor Mondo for supporting people who had already been given the ranches by the UPC government, he said it is iniquitous for any individual Ugandan to own more than a few acres, let alone a mile.
But Chisozi
it's more or less a ranch. If you see what he owes, or his family owes, they owe Gomboloras.
This question is long. We might not finish it now. Maybe you'll just have a summary of this question and then we agree on our next topic, because people's interest here, they're too much interested in land. They say that they need professor to teach them this entire land policy, types of land, tenure system, and the advantages and disadvantages. I'm kindly reserving this for now. We shall discuss how we can come back and have this land discussion.
Okay.
But now the other question also, which is also long, but we'll make a summary of it in our next 3 minutes. Can one be half communist and half capitalist? Because
Can one have one?
yes, can one, for instance, like Mr. Museveni, can one be a half communist and a half capitalist? Because you said Mr. Museveni still has an ideology of capitalism, of communism, but yet some things he behaves like a typical capitalist.
President Museveni is a capitalist through and through. But these people wanted to know, and his friends, that he's a communist. He's neither. You see, if you choose to serve two masters, you can never satisfy both. Never. And President Museveni has no, shall I say, he has no permanent chair. To the movement and supporters outside Uganda, he wants to behave as if he was a democratic communist.
Oh, you're getting another term, democratic? You're getting another term, democratic communist?
Yes, democratic communist. But in reality, and among his supporters, he's a dictatorial, authoritarian despot that hates anything in his way of thinking. So he's a trader of all sorts, but a master of none.
He is a trader
Of all sorts, but a master of none. Because he wants to be good for everyone. And you can never achieve that as a human being. Even Jesus Christ failed. He very carefully selected his disciples. But Judas Iscariot betrayed him. So even God, we Christians regard Jesus Christ as our Savior and God. He even also failed to control man. Man is very difficult to control.
Nyanjura Dorin, the Deputy Lord Mayor, is watching you.
Who?
Nyanjura Dorin, the Deputy Lord Mayor, is watching you here. And so many others, Nyakato, Rusoke from Fort Poto. There are so many people that are watching you. Council Aaron Chiza, Happy Innocent, live from Zambia. And so many, Nyanzi Nash from Netherlands. And so many people. So to say, Mr. Museveni can't be, you called him a democratic communist.
Yes.
Shall we expound that in a minute or two? That do those two words match?
President Museveni is a populist.
Populist.
Populist. Do you remember the People's Popular Republic of Algeria? He wants to be popular. He wants to be loved. He wants to do everything for everybody. And then I have said, if you are that kind of person, you can never achieve anything which is lasting. I have said elsewhere that the evil that men or women, for that matter, do lives after them. The good that they do is often interned, buried with their bones. This is exactly a good solution of President Museveni's governance in this country. He did well. I remember being called by the late Rule when he was the leader of the NRM to Nairobi. They paid my expenses as a professional expert to advise Museveni and Kaila to work together. I went to Nairobi, went in the bush. I don't know that he's still alive, but Kanyeihamba has died. Kanyeihamba was there, Dr. Kanyeihamba. Met with Rule Museveni, and they shook hands on my insistence. They worked together, liberated Kampala together, if you remember. But then, he was not trusted by Kaila. Kaila decided to challenge Museveni leadership. The rest you know.
Yeah.
The death of Kaila has never been fully explained. Many people have got many theories, and I will not go into those. However, one thing that can be clear, I know Andrew Kaila was a very rash man and very ambitious. He had planned to kill all of us in the Nile mansions. He had even brought tanks full of fuel to burn the Nile mansions. So, and his simple answer was, if all of us ministers of Museveni are killed, there will be no government, which was silly. Because the army was still there, everybody was still elsewhere. So he himself would not have been very suitable
for presidents at the time,
leader of this country. But he worked very hard. You see, I have often argued that the President Obote, whether we like it or not, he was a nationalist. He fought and brought us independence, not necessarily militarily, but intellectually. And his effigy or picture was on Parliament. When Museveni came, they destroyed it. That is communism.
And populism.
Communism, when you don't like history, you destroy it.
Communism, populism.
No, populism plus communism. And people are beginning to say which is not true. But Museveni is the founder of Ugandan nation. It will never be. He will never be.
Because that's what.
Because when he came,
that's what they are. That's what they are teaching people, young people, even in secondary schools, that he's the father of the nation.
Precisely. This is what
populism now.
A populist communist.
Okay, Justice Kanyeihamba, honestly speaking, in our next topical discussion, we are discussing land, on how Mr. Museveni is a duo. It's like a double, you know those capsules, double color?
Yes.
Those capsules. So he's yeah, we'll come next time, we shall discuss how Mr. Museveni is a populist communist. We cannot add even a second now. Thanks for watching. Nyanjula Dorin and others, keep it up, share the discussion. May God bless one, bless all. Thank you all.
I like the new term, populist communist.
It's a good one.